Hello world, hello internet. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to Decoded Live. Welcome. It's Friday. Normally, this Friday stream is the last of the week because we do a lot of things throughout the week. We do a lot of coding, and Fridays we get to stretch our legs and talk to the people that we love to work with. But today is actually a little different because right after this, we're not done with the week. My good friends Ed and Alyssa, we have been doing a Signal R stream for the last 4 days, and they're going to start again at 11 Eastern today and do another 4 or 5 hours. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm excited for this. So this is the chat show. This is us hanging out on Fridays because we cannot travel. We cannot be in offices or in conferences and hanging out with the people. This is our thing to kind of connect with the folks that we love to work with, both internal and out in the community. So I am Sam Basu, I'm your host, and today I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Daniel Shain. Hello, Danny. How are you?
Hi, Sam. I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. And yeah, your audio sounds great.
Great.
So I wanted to have Danny on because I think you are incredible. And for all that you do, like you were telling me, like this is kind of your first time being live on the internet, right? So
True.
yeah, welcome to the big bad world.
Yeah, here I am.
Here you are. Yeah, no, it's all friendly. People banter, and sometimes we get trolled a little bit. That comes with the internet, right? So yeah, Danny, welcome to the chat show. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Sure. So as Sam said, I'm Danny Shain. So I'm a colleague of Sam's at Progress. I work on the content team. I help kind of run the blogs at the site on the progress.com and telerik.com in particular. So all the content that you've seen there, if there's people who have read that content, I've read it all. I've helped work with the authors on it all, and that's more or less what I do there.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that as we talk more. But you rattled off a lot of things, right? And pretty much everything that we write on our blogs or things that go live, it goes through you and your eyes. Like you're like the final gatekeeper before things gonna go live, and we are so glad that you do what you do. So I want to dive into all of that. But where do you live?
So I live outside of Boston in
Okay,
Massachusetts.
so our HQ, global HQ. So I love Boston, but how about you? Like, do you love it, hate it?
Yeah, I mean it's a nice area. There's I really like where I live in a suburb outside of the city, so I can get to it, but not too close. The traffic I could live without. It's been less of a factor lately, but traffic in the Boston area is not fun, historically speaking. But I grew up around here. My family's around here. I love living in the Northeast.
That's awesome. And right as we speak about the internet, other program is saying you're blushing, but hey, welcome. We're not all bad. Yeah, so I think
I'm new here.
Yeah, you're new here, but you're totally awesome. And Danny and me were joking just before we went live. Like his and my jobs are like could not be any more polar opposites. Like my camera pretty much stays on all through the day, while Danny is all behind the scenes. He is the awesome behind the scenes. And Ancient Coder, happy Friday! Happy Friday to you. And yeah, anywhere else you are in the world, like hopefully it's afternoon or evening for you. So thank you for joining us. So yeah, and Boston is great for the food scene and for the like the change of seasons. Nothing not to like in Boston, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long have you been with us?
So I've been working at Progress for a little over 5 years.
Oh wow, yeah, nice. Yeah, I've known you for years and years now, and you're awesome at what you do. But how would you describe like what you do to somebody who is like maybe a 4-year-old? Because I have a 4-year-old.
Yeah, well, that's a great question because my son is turning 4 in next month. So,
nice.
What I tell him is that I tell stories, right? That's the really short version that I work with I work with storytellers, right? Do a lot of editing and working with authors and write, when I write my own. So that's how I view it, is that we're really telling stories to our readers that hopefully provide value and help them get what they need to, either just enjoy their day or be more productive, anything along those lines.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, because like a lot of the like technical content in particular gets to be a little dry. Like we're talking about like very like deep dive things, and we can't lose our sense of humor and our storytelling to keep it enticing for the reader, right? Otherwise, like we're just reading through a long-winded thoughts on technology, right? So I think you have it right with storytelling. So like you're here, and we see what you do, but how did you start? Like how did you end up in your career where you're at right now?
So I have always had a real passion for the sort of intersection between writing and technology, even going back to what I studied in college, where I studied both English and computer science. I actually started as a computer science major back in the day, but I ended up flip-flopping them around with what I minored in. But I've really loved working with tech and being in that world, and also writing and just English language and telling stories, and really just language in general, right? Whether it's a programming language or the English language or other languages around the world. So that together brought me along this career where I've been writing essentially about technology. Even before Progress, that's what I was doing in various capacities. So it's a world I like to live in, and I like to write about it.
Yeah. Now, do you read a lot?
Try to
Yeah,
when I have time.
And the reason I ask is like for a technical person, like you have an incredibly good grasp of like figure of speech and grammar and like what type of sentences read well. So how did you develop that? Did you always have an inclination for stuff like this?
So I definitely read a lot, growing up, and as I said, I always knew I was either gonna I wanted to write or program. Like I thought both those things were really interesting career options. Since high school, since I can remember thinking about working. And I studied English in college and did major in it, and have been writing in some capacity, probably every day. When I get a chance, I also try to do some creative writing and other writing kind of on the side, which is when I can. But even just in my day job, I'm always writing or reading other people's writing and just immersed in that day in, day out.
Yeah, so you're definitely trained in it, but you're also exercising the learning muscles, and you're constantly improving. Yeah, that's awesome. So, given all that you do and the varieties of content that you see, like, what is the most exciting part of what you do, and what are some of the challenges?
Yeah, well, you mentioned the variety, and I think that's one of the exciting parts of the role that I have. Especially here where I kind of oversee everything that comes out of the blog, and we write out a lot of different stuff, and so it's a really interesting, kind of a most exciting part and an interesting challenge to try to stay versed enough in all the areas of that we talk about, to be able to read it critically and to be able to offer feedback and kind of edit in a meaningful way, and work with authors on that in all these different areas. So it's fun to just see all the different kind of stuff that comes across and to read about it and learn about it. The challenge of that is that sometimes it's hard to go a little deep into any one thing, right? I'm kind of getting hit with a lot of stuff from a lot of different places at once. But I like, and on the whole, I like that a lot. I like having my fingers in a lot of different things and really having that sense of what people are talking about in a broad way, and what we're doing across the company in a broad way.
Yeah, and I gotta feel like on one angle, like this is an area of growth. Like whenever we go to a conference or something where I mean, we often encourage people to kind of go to a session, go learn a piece of tech that we have no clue about, right? It opens your mind and your horizons. But doing it day in and day out, that's got to be challenging, because if you just look at, and folks in the chat room, like if you want to check out what Danny is producing day in and day out, check out our blogs, like blogs.telerik.com or blogs.progress.com. That's all the variety of content that you're being hit with. And that's a lot of like .NET content, JavaScript content, UX, UI, thought leadership, opinions. That's a lot of variety of content that you're kind of getting into. And while it can be kind of enticing to kind of see and look around, it's got to be hard kind of getting into all these different things.
It's a lot to kind of wrap your arms around sometimes, and it's also, we have a wide variety of authors that write for us, and it's interesting that they each have their own styles, right? Their own things that the ways that they write, and understanding that as an editor and as you're working with them is also kind of part of the process of making the writing as good as it can be. And so that's also an interesting thing too. And there's always new people joining the the blogs too.
Absolutely.
So
and we have so many different like tones in which we write. Like it's very different between authors, right? Just
Absolutely.
the type of language and the tone we use. And as an editor, you're trying to kind of have a blanket. So let me ask you this: like, where do you see yourself kind of stepping in on a piece of content where maybe it's technically accurate, but you really want to change the tone, or do you let the author speak for themselves?
Well, I never want to, sort of take away an author's voice, right? We want the authors to speak with their own voice and to get across their own ideas. But, sometimes they need some help to express it in as effective a way as possible.
Yep.
And I think hopefully I can offer some guidance there where that's needed about how you can be a little more engaging. Maybe start with this paragraph, not that one. You buried the lead a little bit there, or
right,
or this block of text is really hard to read. Can you reframe this a little bit? It's a really good idea, but people are going to skim over it. You want them to really absorb this content. Can you rewrite this a little bit? So I try to offer some feedback and guidance in those kind of ways. But I never want to squelch an author's voice. I never want to just make it all sound like me. That's not my goal. We have a lot of really brilliant writers who work for us, who are excellent writers, many of them. And I'm happy to, work with them as much as they do or don't need it, just to make it as good as it can and to try to polish it up. Both in content and also some SEO stuff and other polish that I try to put on everything, just to make sure it succeeds and people see it and that it helps.
And that is so well said, because again, part of this, again, I'm speaking about this from hang on, my Windows machine is trying to restart to do an update, which I don't want right now. So speaking from a developer's standpoint, a lot of us, like we often start out just being in our little shells, like working in our cubicles and just churning out code day in and day out, and keeping the lights on, getting the business going, producing software and shipping stuff. And then when you start making maybe a name for yourself and you want to get out in the community, you start writing, you start speaking. And part of this is, again, getting out of that shell, your comfort area, and starting to put your thoughts out to the world. So as somebody who is maybe starting to write a blog or just kind of starting out, like what are some maybe suggestions that you might have?
Well, first, don't be afraid. Definitely, if you've been working on something for even a short period of time, you probably have some expertise in there that a lot of people don't, and that would benefit people to hear from you.
Exactly.
So like, don't be afraid to share that, and don't be afraid to just write and put your ideas out there, right? And don't think, well, someone's already written about that, I can never write about that. Someone's better has written about it already. Like, don't be afraid of that. You're going to have a unique way of talking about it. You have some experiences that, even if they're not as long, they're different than that person's. and you have a story to tell. So
Exactly.
I want to encourage people to do that.
Yeah, that is so well said. Because again, like when we learn from each other, it's not just the tech that you're learning. You're learning the experiences of another person going through the steps, and we can all have like imposter syndromes, and we double check and question ourselves, like, am I the authority? Am I the right person, or do I have the right experience to write about it? But again, the thing, like you said, like it's your story and it's your experience. So, and then the more we write, the more we speak, the better we get, right? So, just get yourself out there. Yeah, you heard it from Danny.
Good advice.
Let's talk about maybe some other fun things. Since you manage so much of content from an editorial standpoint, you also deal with lots of comments. Like, and people might say like, no PR is bad PR, but sometimes things get a little funny, right? And I have had experiences where maybe I have poured in like 3-4 days worth of work, and I put together a nicely worded article which I think is well balanced, and then the first comment is "you suck." Right? So you get these things, obviously, right? This is the internet, right? So maybe do you have any funny stories to share, any things to kind of watch out?
Stories. So first, your writing is excellent, Sam, when you write on the blog. Just if anyone hasn't read Sam on the blogs yet, check him out.
Thank you.
And as far as comments, so I do moderate the comments that come through. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of individual stories. I don't know if anything specific comes to mind, but you certainly see a lot of things come through where, some people who just don't like a certain, business or a certain or a certain type of technology, and they're just like, you can see them get into conversations where they just have one thing to say, and they're going to say it in a bunch of different ways.
Right.
And to the point where it's constructive, you want to let conversations happen, but sometimes it gets a little too far, or sometimes it starts too far, and that can't all live there if you're not really adding to the conversation. That's the sort of philosophy that I try to use when I'm moderating. But I want to let people speak and be out there in general. We have some really great conversations back and forths and things about the technology and kind of where things are going and what we do. And it's I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot out there.
Yeah. And at times, like the conversations in the chat following a piece of content is often as valuable as the content itself. So you want to have that open thing. But again, like you said, like don't feed the obvious trolls, right? Who are just trying to kind of incite. And again, like let's not cross the boundaries of getting into personal attacks. I think like we as technologists, like we are all entitled to our opinions, right? As long as we're not perpetuating hate, like this technology is the worst thing in the world. Like that's not a good stance to take anywhere, right? And we are all entitled to be passionate, right? As long as we are kind of balancing it out and kind of not, again, like I said, not being hateful to other companies or technologies. I think we can all have a conversation. So yeah. I am not jealous of all the things you deal with and all the content that comes your way and all the moderation that you have to do. And that is above and beyond your editorial challenges. So yeah, kudos to what you do. All right, so let's talk more about you. Anything that you have seen in the tech world that kind of excites you in the recent times?
So I know, and I want to kind of read about it after, but like I think CES is going on right now, right?
Right? First time, all virtual.
Yeah, so I'm going to want to dig into that in the next couple of days. I mean, I know there's, some cool stuff going on with like rollable, foldable screens. Like they've been teasing that for like 5 straight years. It feels like a little bit like self-driving cars. Like, yeah, next year it's going to be ready. But it seems like they're maybe getting there.
I want to catch up on CS as well over the weekend. I only read like a few snippets of what came out. I think somebody actually did like a prototype flying car one more time.
Ooh, we'll get
Because why
there.
not? You will get there. And maybe closer to reality. So Razer is a company that makes a lot of like gaming hardware,
Mhm.
and they have a smart mask because again we are living through a pandemic, and it's all RGB, so it lights up and it does a lot of different things. And so I think that that's more kind of practical, and it can be a reality very quickly. And the other thing that I saw was a gaming chair, which has like a 60-inch OLED display all around you. And it kind
Ooh,
of folds up in the back, which I don't know. We'll see if it sees the light of the day. But yeah, again,
it's a concept.
yeah, exactly. People pushing the envelope and just trying to come up with fun things technology-wise. So yeah. Speaking of technology, like, do you have a preferred or a beloved like tech gadget that you use all the time?
So a tech gadget that I use all the time. So obviously, not counting my laptop or my phone, which everyone, pretty much everyone's got. But I have a watch, a Fitbit on here that,
Hmm.
and I never really thought that I would love that too much. I actually got it like as a promotion, like so I just ended up with it, and it's ended up being something that I like love. It just I love getting notifications on it, and it like tracks my steps and my sleep, which is kind of fun.
Hmm.
And it's just something that I feel like adds like it's just nice not to pull out my phone every day, all the time
Exactly.
whenever something comes in, and I
Yeah.
just also like knowing the time. I forgot how much that that helps to have that on my wrist. So
Yeah.
that's actually something I really just enjoy having around that I didn't expect to like as much as I have.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I have not
Yeah.
worn a watch in like ages and ages. And I used to actually have that same Fitbit that you have. I have since switched over to Apple, not because like I didn't like it. And I think like Fitbit actually does the best possible job in terms of sleep tracking. It is phenomenal. But I get access to a couple more apps that I really wanted for like fitness tracking that I really like. But yeah, these things are amazing. And like you said, like we don't need to be like the ones who like talk on their wrists like secret agents, but at least not having to pull up your phone and just like a swipe of your wrist and it tells you what the notifications are. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, I actually kind of like about this one that it is relatively simple.
Yeah.
I don't really need another distraction on my wrist, another screen.
Right.
That's not what I wanted, but it does the basics, and it actually the battery
Hmm.
lasts like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah,
I
it's
know a
really
lot
good.
of them last like a day or less, so it's like I didn't want to have to deal with charging it every day, and I don't here. So
Yeah.
it's not a distraction, but it adds in small ways, and that's what
Yeah. Yeah.
I've come to like about it.
Yeah, and that's the downside compared to a Fitbit with an Apple Watch. Like I do have to charge it every night, and a part of me is okay with it because of the features that I want. But again, with Fitbits, you really don't need to charge for a few days, and
Yeah,
that's
there's
pretty
definitely
nice.
trade-offs either way, right? Depends what you're looking to get out of the experience.
Exactly. All right, so you're always busy. You're doing 1,000 things. But what about your life outside of work? Like, what do you do for fun? What's your like work-life balance like?
So, this would have been a different question a year ago, probably, in in multiple ways, because I actually have I have two little kids. So
Nice.
like
How
that's
old are
just
they?
life with them changes daily. The older one is turning 4 next month, and then I
Nice.
have one that's about 16 months old.
Oh boy, keeps you busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. So the house is busy, and we're pretty
Hmm.
much in the house, all the time these days. So work work life is kind of like
Yeah, it's
one
all mixed together.
one thing at this point. Um, so yeah, but there's when I have time, or when it's reasonably possible to do. There's definitely a lot of stuff I like to do. I like to read and write, as I said, when I can find the time to do that. Playing like games nights with friends and poker nights and
Hmm.
like going out bowling and things like that are just some fun things that when I when I have the chance and when sort of the world permits, I like to do those things.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully, like all signs point that way. Hopefully, by sometime this year, we start getting back to some level of normalcy. But yeah, fingers
Yeah.
crossed. And it's hard with little kids and folks who don't have little kids will not understand like how much hands-on, how much time it takes to raise kids. It's a nonstop all day job. it's a lot of fun,
Yeah,
but you got to feel for the kids as well in these pandemics. Like they are stuck at home, and we have things to do as adults, which they don't. So yeah, you got to keep them entertained and engaged as much as you can. Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, yeah. Keeps me busy. I mean, everyone's got things that their own challenges as far as how life is busy or not busy in various ways, but they definitely keep me busy.
Yeah, yeah. What about food? Are you a foodie? Do you like cooking? Do you have any preferred cuisines?
Um, I mean, I like food. I don't know if I'd call myself a foodie. I think I'm a little simpler
Hmm.
fare. Like my favorite food has long been just like pizza, like a nice slice of pizza. Just cheese
Nothing
is
wrong.
good. Throw some veggies on there, you're fine with me.
Nothing wrong.
Um, so nothing fancy. I'll cook up some pastas and things, from time to time. Like, not again, pretty simple dishes, stir fries, whatever. But I've never gone too fancy into cooking. Um,
Okay, so make or break question here. Are
mhm.
you okay with pineapple on pizza?
Yes,
Okay,
100%.
good.
Yeah. Mhm.
Nothing wrong. I love it.
Yeah,
It's
no, I think it
so
tastes
much
really
fun.
good.
Yeah, okay, cool, cool. Maybe another trick question here. If you had $1 million right now, what would you do?
So $1 million. So I feel like I have a boring answer and a fun answer.
Go for
Right.
both.
Like 'cause the boring answer is like, oh, $1 million, if I just, invested that prudently in an index fund, think about the amount I could live off of, or how close
Right.
I'd be to my retirement goals, or the
Oh,
debt I could pay off, or things like that. So, there's one part of my brain that works like that. But if I was just gonna, really just like, what could I blow it on that would be fun? um, I think that, you know, probably like pick up a nice Tesla, drive around town. Not that I'm driving, but those look really fun to drive.
you can
Uh,
pick up a lot of Teslas for a
yeah, I
million
could,
dollars.
but I probably want to renovate my house. Like I don't have a master bath. Why don't I have a master bath yet? If I have $1 million, we can make that
Yeah.
happen. And so there's a few big projects like that. I mean, in another world, I would probably want to go traveling,
Mhm.
things like that. So maybe if I like book a private jet, that's just me. That's allowed, I guess. I don't know, but um, so that's a few things, I guess. I don't know if
Yeah,
I've spent
yeah.
a million yet, but
It'll get you close.
mhm.
I used to work for a private aviation company that maintained like private jets. They are a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun, but they are so bad for the environment. Well, I mean, if you can justify time spent versus like somebody you're trying to protect, yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, they're a lot of fun. And you're right. Like once the world is right side up again, travel is amazing, right? It opens your horizons. It makes you a better person. It's not something you ever waste your money on.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it when I've had the chance to do it. Right,
Yeah.
there was a while when I was a little bit after college where I backpacked around Europe with a friend for a few months and just got to see a lot of parts of the world and experiences that I just I've never I've never had seen since. So that was really eye opening and just a really fun experience. So
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that would be fun to do again, one day.
I hear you. Okay, and our good friend Curious Drive is here in the chat room. Good morning, Curious Drive. I think he's from the Philly area. I'm also in Pennsylvania, but on the other corner. Okay, and Curious Drive, you're opening a can of worms here. We can easily talk about this for an hour here. Um, so the aviation industry is investing to make things better. Obviously, on one side, you see like supersonic jets are coming back in a way. Hopefully, in the next couple of years, there are some companies. There's one out of Colorado called Boom, which is getting back into supersonic things. And there are regulations, there are climate concerns, and if you can bypass them all, you can still get back into New York to London in about 3 hours, which is fun. And they're talking about the economics of it. So, like Concorde, I don't know if you're into any of this, Danny, but we used to have supersonic
Right.
aviation, and it was just like way ahead of its time, and it just didn't scale well. It was just too expensive for what it was. So they're trying to bring it down to the cost of maybe a business ticket across the pond. So while that's happening, that's not very eco-friendly. And electric jets, there are prototypes, okay? There are prototypes which carry like 5 people or so, but this is incredibly hard to do. And I'm sure like, and the regular airlines, like my 2 cents, like they're all looking into like biofuels and other things. And every time we fly, like you carry a bit of guilt, like you know what it's doing. But you were talking about Teslas here, Danny. It's like compared to gasoline or things we can burn, electricity is nowhere near that kind of like holding power, right? So to be able to take even a small jet flying an hour, the amount of battery weight you have to carry is a lot, right? So that's where I think we are up against like some technology challenges, and we just need to figure out the way forward. And oh, look at that. Nice. So curious, Joe, I didn't know you had an electric car. I am about to get one for my next one. It's going to be
Nice.
all electric. And yeah, solar panels. That is really cool. Yeah.
I wanted an electric for my last car, but we have a couple of hybrids. So
no, nice. Yeah. My wife has a hybrid, but yeah, nothing beats going all electric. And these things charge up remarkably fast nowadays. And some of them have those wireless pads, so you can literally pull into your garage or driveway and it charges itself. So that's pretty fun. Yeah. And the thing is, and Curious Drive has it exactly right. So a lot of people have electric cars and they think that they're doing great. But if you are charging it overnight and your electricity comes from not so clean energy sources, then you're not carbon clean, right? Because you're burning coal to get your electricity, which you're putting into your electric car. So yes, if you can go solar panels, that's awesome. Yeah,
I've looked into that too. I'm not on the sunny side of the street. I don't know if I feel like they've told me I'm right on the edge of whether I could qualify.
So yeah, Curious Drive. I didn't know that you drive electric. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, Chevy Volts are pretty good. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, we kind of derailed our conversation, but this is always fun to kind of get into. And when you have kids and when you think about the earth overall, like every bit matters. Like recycling things and clean energy, every bit matters. So yes, kudos to folks who think this way at least. All right, so Danny, I know you're super busy, but maybe leave us with some parting thoughts. Like again, going back to writing, putting yourself out there. I mean, again, just give us some tips and tricks, maybe.
Sort of tips and tricks on
maybe
writing
just
practice.
Yeah, exactly. Like for maybe somebody who's starting out, which we talked about a lot. Like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. But even folks who have been doing it for years and years, like, what are some things, like some basics that kind of always click?
Well, make sure for one thing that you got that you put the main idea at the top or close to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't bury the lead. Make sure that people know what they're coming to read and that you can engage them and grip them right away. Also, especially when you're writing for the web, avoid long blocks of unbroken text. Some people I've seen write like basically one sentence paragraphs, and that if I was writing an essay for my English teachers, they would look at me and be like, "What is this?" But it actually on the web it actually reads fine. I wouldn't necessarily recommend one sentence, but keep your paragraphs short and readable so that the content is easy to read on a phone or other places that like the form factor maybe you don't know what the form factor is going to be.
Exactly.
So those are a couple of quick tips. But, use images, break it up, make it engaging, make it fun, and just share your expertise, right? Share what you know, and let your voice come out because people are going to relate to you, right? You don't want to sound generic because you don't want to sound like a robot. People love hearing unique voices, so go for it.
Yeah, that is very well said. Yeah, things we should always keep in mind, even when we have been writing for a long time. So, The real Dave Bull. Yeah, good to see you again. It is a carbon benefit though, because power companies are pretty efficient compared to. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. I mean, take the steps, whatever we can, and even if your energy is maybe not the cleanest, it is still a benefit, and more electric the better. It's a different conversation altogether. And again, like we can talk about this for a long time. I was having a conversation with somebody where we talked about like what's next. Okay, so we all realize that we want to do the right thing, but what happens to an electric car's battery after like 10-15 years? Like how are you disposing them once you're done? And then that's a whole other challenge, and that relates to like a lot of appliances, right? And like disposing something or taking care of something in a green way is challenging, especially when it comes to electronics. So yeah, we can keep talking a whole lot about it as long as we're all being conscious and trying to do the right thing. I think those are steps in the right direction. Okay, awesome. So, folks in the chat room, I think in about 20 minutes, you're going to be back to our coding streams. My good friends Ed Charbonneau and Alyssa Nykel are going to be on, and they have some amazing guests. I think today they have some folks from Microsoft, Brady Gaster, who I know pretty well. So if you're into SignalR on top of ASP.NET Core and building real-time apps, that's going to be a stream you really want to check out. Stay tuned here. Be with us for a little bit more. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Speaking of Brady, he's right there and lurking in the chat room. Hey, Brady. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. It's early morning in West Coast, but folks are up. Thank you, chat room, for being here. And looks like our good friend Ed Charbonneau is lurking too. So yeah, a lot of good stuff coming. Come on, Brady. He's just making me feel good. Yeah, thank you. Danny, thank you for taking the time. You are amazing. You are amazing for what you do, and I am so glad. I speak for myself that you are the final set of eyes before our content goes live. So keep doing what you're doing. We love you.
All right, thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me on the show. Thanks, chat, for being kind, and it's nice to kind of meet everybody there. And this was a lot of fun.
All right, and it looks like pineapples and jalapenos are up there as well. Good to go on pizza. All right, folks, that's it from us for the chat show. Stay tuned, and we'll see you very soon. Okay, and bye-bye for now.